think it's the making air and it's the making water. And just not used to being from Arizona. When I was, excuse me, when I was growing up, my mother taught me a lot of things. But she taught me a couple of things that were particularly important to this case. And one of the things that she taught me was that you should never say anything about someone unless you can say something nice. And apparently the prosecutor's mother has taught him the same thing. Because he had not said one redeeming thing about Judy Dodd. My mother also taught me something else, which was more important. And she taught me to tell the truth. And the truth is, Judy Dodd is just rotten. She's a liar, and she's a thief. Judy Dodd was just the type of child that when she was playing with her sister, and they would get up on a stool and jump up and down, and the stool would break, she would sneak around and fix the stool. And then she would have her sister jump on the stool up and down. And when it broke, she would say, "Ooh, look what you've done. You broke the stool." And as her sister was getting punished by her mother, being whipped, Judy Dodd would sit in the corner and smile. Judy Dodd was the type of kid that when she was caught in her best friend's house, upstairs in her mother's room, about to steal her earrings, and she was caught, she would say, "I wasn't doing anything. I was just looking at it." Judy Dodd will lie. And Judy Dodd was supposed to be going, when she was supposed to go to school, excuse me, and she would tell her mother she was sick so she could stay home with her friends and smoke dope and go to the mall. That's the type of person Judy Dodd was. And that's the type of person Judy Dodd is. When Judy Dodd got married, and she would take off for days at a time and cheat on her husband, and she would come home and say, "Oh, baby, it's all right. It's okay." And when Judy got married and had children, and she would take off for days at a time, smoking dope and hanging out with other men, and she would come home and her children would say, "Mama, where have you been?" Judy Dodd would look in their eyes and say, "Oh, baby, I was just sick." That's the type of person Judy Dodd is. She will lie when she needs to get out of trouble. Now, the prosecutor had just stood here and asked you to find Mario Dodd guilty. On what? There is not one piece of physical evidence that points to Mario Dodd as being with Judy and Larry at the time the robbery was committed. Excuse me. In fact, the evidence shows that Mario was 40 miles away in New Brunsfield looking for Judy and Larry. He had hoped that there was a mix-up. He had hoped that this was an accident. He had hoped that he would be able to find Judy and Larry. It was San Antonio, it was the weekend, it was busy, and he looked, and he looked, and he looked. And finally, he realized, I'm not gonna have any luck here. Maybe they went back to New Brunswick. So I'll catch a bus, and I'll go back, and I'll go back there, and I'll look for him. But Mario started to realize, he started to get that feeling in his stomach. Judy's at it again. But he couldn't give up. He had to keep looking. And that afternoon he thought, well, maybe I'll call home. I'll talk to Bertha, I'll talk to the kids, and I'll find out maybe Judy called her. And although they didn't have cell phones at the time, Mario was at a phone booth. And he called and he said, "Bertha, have you heard from Judy?" Bertha didn't know what was going on. Said no. tell the kid. I don't want them hurt again. I'll keep looking. I'll keep trying. I'll call you tomorrow. Mario didn't want the kids to know that Judy had done it again. But at that point, he knew. He knew Judy had not even bothered to call and check on her own children. But he thought, if I can get a hold of Judy, if I can find Judy, maybe it's not too late. Maybe I can bring her back home. Because I do not want to be the person that looks in those kids' eyes and tells them, your mother has left you again. And so he kept trying, and he kept trying. But what he did not know at that time, that it was already too late. Because Judy was back in San Antonio with Larry Wrench and someone that we can only call John Doe. Because we don't know much about John Doe. We know he's about 6'5", 6'7". We know he's about 275 pounds. We know that he's about the same size as Larry Wrench. What we also know is that he is smarter than Larry and Judy because he got away. He got away with $30,000. Now, as they are sitting in that hotel room, and we have Larry Wrench getting his shotgun ready, and John Doe making sure his pistol will fire, and Judy going over the getaway route, Mario was still several miles away looking for it. But it was too late. And as they sat in the hotel room that Saturday night, counting their money, snorting their meth, drinking their beer, they had a surprise. A police officer arrived, and they were arrested. And Judy was sunk. You see, Judy was on probation for a drug offense in Missouri, a federal drug offense. One that she got probation for because she knows the game. She cooperated. And that's how she was able to get below that 10-year minimum. But she knew she was going to have to go back before that judge. That very judge, and she said, I swear to you, Judge, I will never do this again. I will never commit another crime. I am going to stay on the straight and narrow. I just want to go home and be with my family. And she knew she was sunk. And so what she thought and what she did was she said, get me the feds. Because I think I can get the feds to get me out of this. I know if I offer them some evidence, if I offer them someone, I can cut a deal. And it was a deal that she cut. Feds came in and said, Judy, this is your lucky day. Because those local boys, they messed up. We don't have any DNA because they didn't preserve the gloves like they should. We don't have any fingerprints because they didn't seal off the room like they should. We don't even have a photographic lineup where Mario was taken back to the scene or back in front of the tellers for them to point him out. What they have is nothing. What we have is you. But we're going to need some help, Judy, because you don't have the best background. In fact, you're right. You lie, and you're a thief. So we're going to need a little bit of help. We need Larry Wrench, because we will now have two telling the story. Now, the prosecutor didn't care that these people are so stupid that they couldn't tell the same story. All he wanted was his conviction. He wanted Mario died. And so the deal was done. Judy was able to get under And so, ladies and gentlemen, that is why we are here. Because Judy Dodd wants us here. If Mario is here, if I am here, guess who's not here? Judy. Now, you're going to see a jury instruction. And I'm not going to talk about reasonable doubt because in this case, I don't believe it's necessary. They have no evidence, and we have an alibi. This case is clear. But you are going to see a jury instruction. And that jury instruction says this: if the government's case is rotten, then you can find Mario Dodd not guilty. And ladies and gentlemen, the government's case is rotten.